We'll call this meeting to order. Would the clerk please call a roll?
Commissioner Jarvis. Commissioner Warren.
Here.
Commissioner Zender. Commissioner Henning.
Here.
Chairman Roy.
Here. We always start our meeting with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance.
Our Father, we come together to consider the business of the county. Thank you for the opportunity. Give us guidance as we consider the issues and help us to make the best decisions possible. We ask your special blessing on all the people who came today. We've got some people in the audience, and we're always appreciative of that. We ask your blessing upon the staff and their families and upon the people of this county. We thank you for the rain you delivered to the farms and gardens. Hope ask that you deliver some more. Watch over this country. We need help from you in many ways. Amen.
Rick, you want to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before the board, you'll see today's agenda. Are there any additions to this agenda?
I could add a brief discussion about review with control. Administrative control. Just brief.
Okay.
Just want to say I'd like to add this to the packet. This is the quote that is aligned with number 6 on the agenda. This is an updated quote for communication services. And I wanted to make sure that that quote was included as it's the number we found a reduced price, a better deal.
That's number 6.
Correct.
For the $1,820.
Yes.
Motion to amend the
Is there any other? Hi, Bonnie, how are you? Is there any other additions to this agenda? Got a motion? That's support. A motion support to approve this agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries. The consideration of the draft minutes from the June 10th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting. Motion to move. Support. Any discussion on those minutes? We have a motion and support. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Review of overnight travel requests, grant applications, and budget amendments. Going around the dais this morning. Find anything that doesn't look right to you, please bring it before the board this morning. Bring us down to department head updates. As needed. Any department heads or elected officials want to give us an update this morning?
No, go ahead, Teresa.
I'll be quick.
Yep, go ahead.
Kathy allowed me to come forward. I have just received from Lansing a copy of the Senate Oversight Committee report on the November 2020 election, and I simply wanted to pass out a copy for each of you. I know at a number of meetings you have citizens commenting about the election. I have not had an opportunity to go through this. It started lengthy, but I wanted you to have that chance in case somebody from the public wonders what the contents are and what your comments are.
Is this for Lapeer County or is this for?
No, this is
For the whole state.
yeah, the oversight. It's the Senate Oversight Committee, and without really going through it, I'm not schooled to say what it is. It's pretty lengthy. I'm interested to really spend time with it myself. And that's all I had.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Remarkable, isn't it? Thank you all.
No, that's not true.
That was very fast. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, I know I mentioned last week, an employee being bumped up, and I did manage to bring him again with me today. I don't remember how much I mentioned last week, but there are no schools that are very few, if there are any still out there, that provide training that provides a degree in as a registered sanitarian. Instead, we get people who have like biology or other science tech degrees. And so we have, in recent years, been very fortunate in getting 3 really good recruits. And the first one of those 3 is Nathan Denny. Nathan, you want to come on up? Nathan started in January 24th of 2019. And 2 weeks ago, it takes time to go from a sanitarian to a registered sanitarian. 2 weeks ago, he took his exams that qualified him to be a registered sanitarian. So we are bumping him up to that status. And I just wanted you to meet him because we do have some very good staff out at the office. And I didn't tell him that he might have to say something, but anything you'd like to say? I want to tell him what a wonderful place the health department is. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't put you on the spot like that. But truthfully, he's been just a very valuable employee. And I might say that during COVID, all 3 of them also doubled as public health nurse, case investigators, and did an excellent job. So anyway, just to introduce you to me.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks. Getting this far.
It's not an easy test. It's a lot of studying.
It's a relief.
But where was your degree?
So I have a bachelor's in biology and a master's in public health.
From?
Bachelor's from Bob Jones University in South Carolina and a master's from University of South Carolina.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate it. Okay. Then not too much to report on the COVID front. We are up just a little in cases this last week from the week before. We have a total of about 5 cases right now. No new deaths, thankfully. We do have 1 new variant that was identified in the county, the P1. So of 81 cases that have been tested. Remember, this is just ones that actually got tested. 77 of them were the B117 United Kingdom one. And then we have now had 4 others, just one case of each. So that's where we are with that. Within clinics, we're very, very low on COVID requests. However, as I mentioned last week, one of the reasons why we wanted the trailer was not only the COVID, but to also be in to provide childhood immunizations in the community, and which we have now added, since we know we're not overwhelmed with COVID. We've added the regular and at last week's clinic, or Monday's clinic, we should say. We did have 2 people. It's the first time we advertised it. We did have a couple people come out for regular childhood. We're hoping that with being out there on a regular basis, that will the word will spread and it'll be better utilized. So, gradually working on pulling things back in the health department as far as services. There are some that, for example, WIC, that's federal program, they have the staff still doing telehealth with those people. But we've been doing immunizations in the building for months. We're working on plans to be able to open everything else up. Senior programs, senior centers are going to be open July 7th. And we have a couple of thoughts on how we might be able to get the building more open than what it is right now. I will say that right now we have a bit of staffing problem in environmental health. That's and all the services have been provided there, and everyone's getting what they need. It's been working well for months, so, we are gonna continue with that temporarily. We have one clerk, out of 2 full-timers. And we have, the counter open right now. We are not gonna be able to survive, so just kind of giving you an update on that. Plus, we're down 1 sanitary, so.
Okay. I do have some comments on, you said there's vaccines available for children. And we hear a lot of things, and not Kathy, I mean, the health department. Everything we hear from the government. The government has given us a lot of false information, so I want to put the other side to it, but you believe it or not, doesn't matter. It's just you have to have that out there for you. I listened to Dr. Robert Moscone. If you don't know who he is, he's being censored. Dr. Moscone was one of the inventors on the MMRA, okay? And he says that we should be looking out for what's going on with these vaccines. Now, those who needed it, got it, we're glad it happened. And those who wanted it, I think you should get it if you think you're in that kind of a situation. There's a lot of people who don't need it. But when we're talking about children, and they still don't even have the studies done, they're still not yet approved, you should keep your eyes open to that also. You should not be told what we need to do. We should be able to make a decision for ourselves. But when you're censoring doctors like this, it's something we all should be asking questions about. It has nothing to do with the health department. She only knows what she's been told, what's coming down from the government. We all know what's being told by the government. But we're all being censored by a lot of good information. Our frontline doctors were out there treating patients during this time. Still have not been able to heard on the media. If that doesn't rile people's butts up, but I'm just telling you, I want you to hear the other side, and that's all I have to say at that.
I usually remain silent, but I'm going to say one thing. What I know is not just what's been fed to me about the government. I went to school, nursing school, and master's program, and learned a lot of the science behind it. So
And I agree
I'm just
100%.
going to leave it at that.
And I appreciate 100%. My wife's got a nursing degree, and I have a lot of doctors and friends that also have the same degree who also see things in a different way. It's not nothing against you, Kat. Don't ever take that personally. I'm talking about America. I'm talking about Americans have the right to choose for themselves what's right and wrong, whether I feel I need it or I don't. Even if that can make me sick, it's my choice. I shouldn't get in a car because I might get in an accident. Plus my choice, I'm gonna get in a car anyway. Some guys want to be a race driver. We know that's a high risk. Some want to be a skydiver. That's a real high risk. But they got a choice. America has a choice to voice our own opinions in the way I weigh the professional opinions. That's what I want. I want to hear from them. I don't want them telling me. I want you to give me your expert advice. Let me weigh that for myself. That's what America's all about. And it's a freedom that we have in this country that you don't have across the world. But it's going way fast if we don't stand up. That's my side of the story.
Moving on. Thank you, Kathy. Like the special department head, Sheriff?
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Somebody take your words.
I don't know what new or exciting, but I'll stay here for you.
Good morning, Jack.
What?
You're off.
Yep.
It's probably a good thing.
Will be a clear. Anyway. Good morning. So a couple things into the stats, and then the most important part of the morning for us right after that. We have had some conversations, obviously, with the opening of things. I mentioned to some of you that Jeremy and I did attend, which was really refreshing. The MSA, the Sheriff's Conference in Grand Rapids last week for a few days. It was shortened, everything was completely changed with it. But that's the first time that all 83 sheriffs have been together since the beginning of it. A lot of information, a lot going on. We met with a ton of the legislators, our lobbyists through there. I think it was, to be honest with you, coming out of there, I don't know if I was encouraged or more discouraged. I know we mentioned it that last time, but boy, seeing some of the legislation that's out there is I don't even have words for it. But we keep rolling with it. One of the positive things is, obviously, through the courts and through our jails, we have been really, really purposely since the beginning, and knock on wood, I said that to you before, we haven't had one case of COVID in our jail. And that's not luck. That's because of the guys and girls back there and how they've done it. It has nothing to do with me. They have done a phenomenal job with it. When we sat through those meetings and I mean, there were some of the jails, Kent County, Wayne County, that had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases. We had 0. So I kind of kept my mouth shut during the forum there, and I didn't give my number into the problems that we had. But that's a huge credit to the men and women back there. I mean, they have just done phenomenal. And I don't even, there was nobody, there was not one other agency that could say they didn't have any. But on the other side of it is, with the way the court system's done, obviously, you've had no trials here, and God knows how long. One of the other things that we had orders coming down from Lansing was obviously, if you're in jail, you have no other option. I mean, there's nobody in jail. You look at the prison numbers, the state can say what they want about how they drastically dropped them, that's crap. They either put them in our jails or they put them back on the street. So it's really frustrating from that, but our numbers were kind of regulated by what the governor said in some of the orders. You figure we're 123 bed jail. Currently today we have 51 in our jail. We were down at 40 at one time. It doesn't mean crime went down. That means that they're back on the street quicker. So in going to there, we did come, we had a chief's meeting, we had a meeting at the beginning of the week with staff, and we decided we are opening back up. We are going to start putting in there. One of the things that I think helped Lapeer County, remember I come from Genesee County, where working my career was, in Genesee County, everybody knew you didn't go to jail. So, and they make fun of you when they send your patrol car, basically saying, well, what are you going to do? You can't put me in jail. In Lapeer County, you can go to jail. And we want to make sure, I think that's a big component for our county, that people know that. So we are opening up our numbers. The departments are being told we are getting back to taking people back there. We're obviously going to be smart about it. We still have all of our same procedures in place through COVID, but I think that's one of the things that I want to focus on. Because it's been a revolving door, and if you don't think that people that are in that criminal world or the things they do have taken advantage of that, we're crazy. So just another kudos to corrections, because I mean they truly have just done a fantastic job. For the stats for there in the last week, lodged in the jail was 31, Elmont 2, the 2 of them in there, Inlet City 1, Lapeer City 2, Sheriff's Office 15, State Police 3, Dryden Township 1, Metamora 5, Friend of the Court 1, DNR 1. Out of those 31, 16 felonies, 18 misdemeanor, and 1 civil. Out of the 31, 21 of them male, 10 female. Traffic stops 117, car crashes 20, personal injury accidents 3. Out of those 31 in there, those needing medical treatment or intervention was 2. Detoxing from drugs or alcohol is 3. Mental health intervention 2. Any questions on that stuff until I move to the important part? Yeah, go ahead.
So you said DNR 1.
Yep.
And I believe last week you said you're saying that. That's kind of unusual, isn't it?
Yeah. And DNR stuff can be drastically kind of across the board. A lot of DNR stuff will come from DNR is a tough job because they cover so much area. We actually work very well with the DNR officer this year. We have 2 that kind of cover one main one. Matter of fact, when he came in, he has a key to our building, comes in, does our reports. We work really well with him because he actually works from home. I won't say where he lives, but he lives down in the south part of the county. So he goes there, he reports from his house, takes his truck home, does everything with it. But we call them a lot, especially if we get hunting violations or any of the things that relate to the DNR, that they'll come and take over with it. We're really blessed to have the guy here that we have. But a lot of those, it could be, some of those things will turn into, truthfully, with a lot of their stuff, if it's a violation, whether it's hunting, fishing, any of the stuff, trespassing on some of the property. There's a lot of times that goes with that. If you're drinking all day, it turns into a forcible, it turns into something that way, that there's charges that they then bring in with us. It also could be warrants. DNR can bring in on one of our warrants. That wouldn't be that part. But we run across people all the time that have warrants that through the DNR that might have been in the UP. So it is very rare, but we work really well with them together. And like I said, he's always at our office. But prior to that, prior to the one there, it scores me. But the DNR is supposed to, obviously as a state agency, they don't give him an office. It MSP. So we give them an office because we want that relationship, and it's turned out to be fantastic. But it is a rare case.
It's still ringing.
But that,
You know, it's still ringing. Yeah, he's a great guy.
yeah, he's super for us.
You mentioned trials, and it's
Yes,
quite your territory. You getting any information on changes on dates for when those trials might begin?
The hard part, I think, and everyone gets frustrated in to Judge Locust's defense, the courts are regulated completely by a different agency. So I have seen in the leadership meetings, I know that Chris and Dan were at earlier in the week, that is the plan, is to start opening up on some of these. They're actually mailing jury stuff out, so that's a positive sign. But yes, we are in the way. Judge Loca is looking to open up. I would say, that's the best way to say this, after talking with the other counties, I think we're moving quicker than everybody else is. I will say that because this is crazy. I mean, and the bad part about it is if we've had cases that obviously it could be a civil case that you have in there. They're going to do criminal before they do civil. We're backed up a year and a half on criminal. So you're talking civil cases that are very important to people that might not go for years. So it's going to be we're going to have to fix it. And I mean, we're going to have to, it's truly going to have to be one of those things where that gets moved to the top of our priority because everything was just stagnant. And I don't know, we still have the same amount of people, same amount of courtrooms, so I don't know how you push it through even faster. But I am happy to say that of talking to the other counties that the judge seems to be pushing harder than a lot of counties are.
Yes, I do want to comment because I appreciate you bringing that up. I have friends, I used to hang around with a bunch of cops in Detroit, and that was going this age, just doing the same thing. I mean, you arrest the guy, and before they get through really writing their report, they can see the guy back in the street.
Yeah.
Now, how do you solve crime, criminal from doing it again if that's what you're going to do? So I applaud the fact that we do arrest them and push forward. There's other issues in this whole country, and I bring this up because this is all part of the same equation. We have over 100 and some people sitting in prison and jail right now in Washington, D.C. without any representation. We're peacefully marching. But we have a whole bunch of people they just got through forgiving because they burned down buildings and took over police stations across the country, which that could happen anywhere. And it could happen here overnight. But I have to tip my hat to our county. Our sheriffs are great. So no, I'm not picking on that. I want you to understand this overall picture overflows into us too. So we have to be aware of all that, speak up about these things when we see it happening. Because this is wrong what's happening to these people. American people sitting in jail because they can do that to them. And not even give them representation right now because they feel one way. And then we put the people that are out there, we arrest them, we let them burn down buildings and pat them on the back if they have people protesting. And that's why we're feeling the effects over here in Lapeer. But I'm proud to have these guys. I'll stand on your back every time.
I appreciate it. And I think you're talking about what you're talking about. Some of the legislation out there right now is truth and testimony. And that's really heavy with it. What the system that we currently have, our system is broken in general. I mean, it's not working the way it should be. But when they talk about that, and in short, you have that one and you have qualified immunity, which I mentioned to you last week. Qualified immunity, if that goes away, you will have mass exodus in law enforcement, and good luck getting anybody in. Because and everyone thinks it's criminal. It is not criminal. If I go out and do something wrong right now, I'm going to be charged just like anybody else. That's in the civil arena. But the truth of testimony side is what they're pushing right now is, gosh, and these are only on major crimes. These are on homicides, rapes, any of the big stuff that people need to be in prison for. They want to say, so once it goes through the courts, they have their sentencing, they do all their pre-sentencing stuff, comes up that they have a minimum and up to a maximum on sentence, 20 to 30 years, let's say, on a homicide. They set that minimum. What they want to do now is they want to give them benefits, number one, of their prison time and things of that sort, which is fine from the one side. If you don't educate yourself on it, you go, okay, well, that makes sense. They were a good prisoner or whatever it may be. You've established a minimum. That minimum was established so that if you did all the things and acted correctly as a prisoner and were a model prisoner, you're going to get your minimum. You're going to get out 10 years earlier than whatever your maximum was. Well, now they're trying to say, well, you can do additional things, so that 20 years can now be 12 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it may be. That's why the minimum was established, so that if you did the correct thing, you get out. Pretty simple. How do I then go tell Brian, when his daughter was the one that was killed, well, I know that that's the suspect that did it, and the minimum was 20, but he was really good in prison, so we're gonna let him out at 12. You gotta have accountability to our victims and their families. So people go, well, I get it, they were okay with it. That's why minimums were established. You have this range, 20 to 30, for an example, and if you did the things you were supposed to do and became a better prisoner, became a better person, you'd get your minimum. Now you wanna drop it back to here. We got a responsibility to those victims and their families. So it's a lot of legislation that's going out there. It's one that we sit back and go, obviously why I'm bald, is because you sit and worry about it going, what are we thinking here? So,
And what you just said, these are things that are out of his control. If this gets changed in legislation, we need to talk to our state reps and our senators. We've got to voice this. We cannot wait till it gets passed and say, I wish we would have done something. Let's vote it out. It's too late. Because they're not going to put it back on the agenda, I promise. Right? So we all have to start standing up. I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you.
you have questions before we move that?
Thank you. Yes.
So, most important part of the day, and I'm sorry that we had to bore everybody with all this stuff. This is the important stuff. I told you, and I know this is repetitious to you guys because of hiring, but one of the things that we talked about when we first came in is that we wanted the best employees. We want a range of people. We want people that have different tasks, different skill sets. And I also told you I had zero to do with it. I really put that out there because of some of the things that are there. This young man happens to be a young man that I've known for many years. I've known his family for many years. But I say to him, I say to his family, this has zero to do with me. He put his stuff in, he did all of his written stuff, he did all of his oral board, and sort of the top of that. A lot of you know the family, know some of the people that are in here. If you watched Lapeer Lightning football on Friday nights, you saw this young man ripping kids' heads off. But the one part about him is that when he did that, and he blew him up in the middle of the field, he was the first kid to reach down, threw a hand down there and helped him back up with a smile on his face. There's a lot of young people that we get that come to us that, to be honest with you, aren't ready for that profession and to be back there. This is one that I didn't say a word about because I knew the abilities that he had. And then after the oral board, we had people from all over the state that walked in and went, wow, this kid, and I just shook my head. Zach is a absolute pleasure of a human being, a phenomenal athlete. Obviously, him and his brother are both very active. His brother who just graduated now. You just don't get better kids. As I told you before, what is the thing that I look at the most? Family. And if you look, half this room right now is family and friends, and obviously Doug's here and Doc's here and all these family members. That's what I look for. There's people that are pure community people that do that. If you know Zach's mom and dad, I don't know if there's two people that are more active in this community than anybody else here. They are involved in everything. You see why the kids are the way they are when you know mom and dad. We're really super blessed to do this. I did have a couple of people that were on Zach's oral board that came up after as they were walking out, looked in the door and said, just so you know, we're going to try to steal them from you. So I said, well, not a chance in hell, but thanks for coming. And so I'd love to, and it's just kind of a funny note because so Zach actually has been working for a couple weeks. The reason we couldn't do this, obviously, with all new deputies coming in, we want to bring them in front of you. It's important to do that. But somebody that's coming into law enforcement right off the bat has a big family back and really wanted him to do it. The reason we couldn't be here 2 weeks ago is because he's a little bit broader in the shoulders and chest from lifting for all those years that we couldn't get uniforms for him. So we had to have special order uniforms for him to get here. So I was laughing with him. And truthfully, I told him this because of somebody that I've been around and have practiced and games with. I joked about it and I'm like, you got to go lifting so much we can't get uniforms. He's like, I'll quit lifting. I'm like, that's not what I meant. said you are now in a profession that lifting could save your life. So continue lifting, we'll buy the uniform. So that, if you come on up, family, parents, everybody, you guys are welcome to move around, take pictures. I know Crystal's going to be doing some with it. This is a legitimate Lapeer County kid. Born and raised here, family born and raised here, works here, involved in everything around here. This is the prototype of what we look for in the Sheriff's Department, and I'm super proud to have that here. You raise your right hand, repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United
of the
States,
United States,
the Constitution of
the Constitution
this state,
of this state,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of
the duties of
Deputy Sheriff
Deputy Sheriff
in and for
and for
County of Lapeer,
County of Lapeer,
State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Welcome to the family, brother. For the most important part, and Tim doesn't know this, but Tim, can you come up? When I ask, and you know, you guys know, and you know I get emotional about that, but I always ask people who they want to pin them, the person that's important in their life, and the person that's brought them to where they're at. And I thought I wanted him to choose mom. He chose you. So, so this is a huge honor in your son.
Don't tell me whatever you do.
Remember when he didn't clean his room?
Remember, accidents happen.
I do this a few times.
Congratulations. Zach, if you could introduce everyone you have here.
Of course, I got my father, I got my brother back there sitting next to him. I got my uncles and Nina, and then their little daughter Maisie. I have both my grandparents, my mother, and I have my girlfriend.
Awesome. Anything you'd like to say to the commission?
Thanks for letting me and my family come out here.
Well, you're more than welcome.
Fantastic. Thanks, brother. And I did, because I didn't get a chance to talk to the family, you guys are welcome to go out here and take photos, and because otherwise you're gonna have to sit here for a couple hours. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other department heads or elected officials that would like to give us an update this morning? That I will say one thing, it's nice to see you all in here without having to wear masks. I can actually recognize you all. I don't have to worry about somebody busting into the meeting, charging us with some crime or something like that for something not wearing. It's nice to be back, but we don't have to do that anymore. So, saying that, welcome, nice to see more people back in the room. And don't worry, I'm not, if you want to feel more comfortable wearing a mask, you can do that. And don't feel that you're upset about it. I mean, if you feel more comfortable wearing it, just go ahead and wear it. So, here to saying that, I guess I don't see any more elected officials or department heads would like to give us an update. Closed elected official department updates. That brings us down to the first public time. Would anybody like to address this board during the first public time?
Morning. Thank you for your service to our county. My name is Carol Brown, I live in Maple Township. My concern this morning is that I know we control the money and our election machines. My request is that you consider purchasing new machines. There's a lot of people that feel these Dominion machines are not trustworthy. I'm one of them. So that's my request, is that you consider changing these machines before the 2022 election. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this board during the first public time? Hearing and seeing no one, I'll close the first public time. Brings us down to the health department. request to authorize one-time $500 COVID-19 recognition payments to eligible LCHD, Lapeer County Health Department employees who provide services through the PHIP, fully funded by the PHIP at no cost. What does this mean?
Did you have some questions? I didn't know if you had questions or not. Sometimes you don't have questions.
Well, I understand that. Did we not, as a county, did we not actually provide everybody in the health department with additional money?
Yes, you did.
Everybody in the entire county, did we not? Give them
We-
additional money up to
Yes,
$1,000 each?
I'm
this
sorry?
COVID- During this COVID deal, we didn't actually, and kind of at a
We
loss as to,
included the AICC staff in the
right,
entire health department. That is correct.
so this is in addition to,
And specific to the AICC people from the Region 10.
Why is that?
I think that kind of giving an overall first, there are only 4 health departments in the state that have AICC as part of their health departments. Unlike senior programs, there aren't very many health departments across the state that have senior programs as part of their health department. And our senior program aides have been getting an additional couple dollars stipend from BAAA. That program specifically paid out. At the time when that was first put in, we did put in for a payment to all of our health department staff. And that was very graciously approved by the board. And so that the board was able to, everyone that was involved with the health departments did get some additional funds at that time. This just came along this last week, and we have to give them a determination by the end of the month as to whether or not we're going to refuse it or take it. So that's why it's here.
How many people will this be?
How many people does this affect? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
so I have a question. So we picked 6, get an additional $500 or whatever. What about the rest of your? Are you gonna have a problem?
I'm just going to have a problem either way.
This wasn't,
One of those, there's darned if you do, and darned if you don't. So I
This is not your
brought it
choice.
to the board. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, if I do bring something additional forward, it would exclude the ones who have already been given extra, from specific agencies.
That help?
haven't we already, in effect, set a precedent for doing this with female health?
Correct.
Yeah, these are things outside the control of Lapeer County, really. We didn't ask for it.
I'm sorry?
We didn't ask for it,
We did not.
they just gave it. So on that basis, I guess I'll move to the draft motion.
And I'll have to support it on the basis because we don't always agree with it, so I'm approving it and because I'm supporting it because of the fact that this country is giving money away to people for doing nothing.
I'm sorry?
I said, I'm supporting it right now because this country has given away money for people for doing nothing.
Yeah.
We got people that went out there knowing that they might be arrested, not knowing because of the fear that we put into them. And they took that challenge. So I think we should honor them with that, and we have set a precedent. So it is money that's coming from this whole COVID thing that I think was a hoax to begin with. But I'm going to prove it on that fact. Okay?
Mixed feelings, but
I'm sorry?
mixed feelings, but that, I have to agree with that.
Well, we have a motion and support. We need a roll call on this, or should we just vote? We have a motion and support. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Motion carries. Well, we're gonna hear about this, you understand?
No good deed.
All good deeds go, but get funny.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Veterans Affairs request to authorize the credit card.
I'll move it. Support.
Veterans, they all schooled on the use of these credit cards.
Yes, they have. I talked with
They
them.
have to be used,
Correct, and I've provided all the documentation to them for
so they don't
compliance.
get in trouble for using them the right way or the wrong way.
Correct.
Okay, we got a motion and support to give the Veterans Affairs credit card. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign, motion carries. Drain Commissioner requests to authorize payment to Meyer and Meyer LLC attorneys at law related to the Carroll County Water Authority dispute amount of $4,920.50. I don't see anybody here for the Drain Commission to speak to this.
This was important enough for be here for this.
I will make a motion to deny the request authorized.
I'll support that. There is a thing called a training fund that the Drain Commissioner has, and there seems to be about $1 million that's what they can pay the bills. So, you made a motion not to pay the bill.
I guess in fairness, is what is the background of this?
The background is when the Drain Commissioner was brought into litigation with Carrick Nandi and Augustini, and he was named as one of the in the case that he had found an attorney to represent him before General Legal Counsel was contacted. So the bill for the attorney fees started, and now he had a total invoice of $4,922.50.
I guess my question then would be, when did this suit and his need for defense start? We had an unusual relationship with our past prosecutor, who was not our general counsel.
Correct. So the suit itself is 5 and 6 years old. It's relatively new that the Drain Commissioner was brought into it, and that's when he sought legal counsel. When we found that out, we contacted our county general legal counsel right away to get involved. And it is at that moment, mid-April, that we injected ourselves into the case, so to speak. And he had just sent, what are we, in the middle of June? He had sent the invoice for $5,000 for all time, beginning back in February, when Drain Commission independently sought out him. And so,
February this year.
correct. We became involved with General Legal Counsel in April.
But he didn't ask the question about what assistance he might get from our general counsel until April. That's when the topic came up.
Well, no, actually, that's not exactly right, because John Miller has been involved with the Drain Commissioner for about 6 months now. Since John got in there, he got involved in this. This suit goes back, this suit was between Carrick County, our road commissioner, the Drain Commissioner, and it's like kids playing checkers. So this suit goes back a long ways, and it's all about the size of, we want to get into it, it's all about the size of tubes and reduction in tubes and everything else, the way the water flows. And one side, the road commission says it only needs to be this big, the Drain Commission says it needs to be this big. So that's what led to this lawsuit. If you 7 years now, or 10 years, ever since they started building that water line through my district up there. I mean, it's been a problem going back and forth. So that's all I can tell you. But I mean, I'm not going to, I don't know who's right and I don't know who's wrong. But I would just suggest we don't pay this bill.
What's his argument that we should versus his coming out of drain funds?
The argument is we'd rather have us pay it than pay it out of the drain fund. If you really want to know the truth of the matter, isn't that true, Jackie? That's simple dial.
Would you like that motion to reflect?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, like that. I suppose.
So the motion is,
Not to pay it.
what do we just add, I guess?
To be paid out of the drain fund.
Okay.
Understand better,
Yeah, that's that.
better.
We have a motion and support, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Carries. Glad that I'm back, Sheriff.
I love it.
Okay. Sheriff's Department requests to purchase up to 8 video equipment for the county jail. Information to be distributed at the meeting.
Just for the record, I don't have $1 million drain fund. Just want to point that out.
No, I understand. I looked at your balance.
I apologize. Jeremy actually is in a meeting that he could not miss this morning. I know Quentin and Jeremy worked very heavily on it. So Quentin's probably more versed in it than I am. But when we had the MDOC, that was the one that I sent you from all the things that obviously how well everybody did in the Department of Corrections thing. One recommendation that they saw in there was our storage reference to the jail, the recommendations through the state. And I understand, to be clear too, that the recommendations in the past that have been made that I don't agree with and never come before because it's the state. This one I do agree with. Our storage, which is basically the video on that is back there as it gets recording, the amount of storage that we have was about a 10-day ballpark. The recommendation is 30. One of the things I talked about when I saw the MDOC was with the other sheriffs in there, pretty much the minimum is 30. I think that suffices for Lapeer County. But I think it is best for if there was litigation, things like that in there. What a lot of these people will do is, or any of these lawsuits, they'll wait till after, especially if that was a short time like that, or by the time you do the paperwork, it's a few weeks before you get it, the video's gone because it gets re-recorded back over. I think the 30 days is sufficient. And I do think MDOC got this one right on the recommendation, especially with the day and age that we live in. I know Quentin and Jeremy worked very hard on it. I think they actually, because I think yesterday it changed and the quote got dropped pretty drastically.
It did by $1,400.
Yeah, so that's the amount to bring us up to speed to where we have 30 days. We have no issues. That way it's in there. We fall under the recommendation. You know how that works. When we do get into litigation, then they go to MDOC and say, what's your recommendation for video storage? It's 30 days. Well, here, what's yours? It's 10 days. We're just trying to kind of take exposure away.
I support that, agree with it. Sheriff, so is this all the video in the jail?
All of it. Correct.
So we will have 30 days worth of
Everything there.
everything that goes on.
Yeah, we're gonna try to in the future. Matter of fact, we're working with Mary right now. I would like to, we've talked about it before, obviously the grant money has kind of really opened up for change, and we're trying to see what fits into a whole, obviously like we're doing on all these COVID things. I'd like to expand that down the road, even to our parking lots, but we just really have the jail, we don't have the inside, like down here, everything's on camera. I can see, like if you guys are sitting, and it's nice for all of us because I can see everything from my desk. I can sit and see all the cameras down here. We're trying to switch that over at the jail too, even with the parking lot. I mean, you got employees cards that are out there, you got people that are being released from jail out there. So I'd like to expand that in the future, and we're looking at some grants on that. doesn't apply to this. I think one of the things that Quinn and Jeremy were ahead of the game with was looking to see if we were able to get to that a year or 2 years from now, whatever it may be, would it be compatible? And the answer to that is yes.
Got any input?
I do. So when Thumb Communication Services originally went out to quote the project, they came back with their recommendation. Because we pay for CNET services as our in-house IT department, I deployed Danny to go to the jail to verify everything. And plus, it's just good to take a second look to make sure that we're up to stuff. He came back, he said they're spot on, Thumb Communication Services, and it's not over, it's not under, it's exactly what they need. And I asked him to also pull quotes to make sure their numbers lined up. He said they were right on the money ballpark. So the fact that Thumb Communication Services came back and decided just to take off $1,400 of the bill, I think that's a huge gesture on their part. And for what our own people priced out the system to be, to come on to $1,400, I think it is a great deal. Verified by CNET.
This is a one-time cost. Not annual.
This is
or
server.
This is hardware, this is physical hardware, so one-time cost.
Are there any more questions? We have a motion and support. All in favor of the motion to approve this, signify by saying aye. Aye. Oh, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you to Quentin and Jeremy. You guys did a lot of work on it. Very grateful.
Administration, finance, I guess that's what we're at, Board of Commissioners. Draft proposed June 17th property motions attached. I would like these to be taken one at a time. Brian?
June 17th, 2021 properties committee meeting, first one, motion by Rick Warren, supported by Brian Sanders, to recommend to committee of the whole to authorize building and grounds, parks department to purchase a Harmsco portable swimming pool vacuum for parks at the cost not to exceed $2,500 to be paid from the capital improvement line item 675-208-977. .250, motion carried unanimously. This is a pool filter for, they have to circulate the water every so often, you know, and this will allow them to do that, and still be able to, you know, maintain vacuum and stuff. So what you're saying is what happens when they do the vacuum, it cuts off that circulation.
So what I understand.
And this one is allowing them to have that.
So you're gonna move back and forth one part to the other.
No, this is for
General Fire.
general square.
Just for general fire.
Krasuski has one. There's, I believe, it's about double the cost. Was purchased, and they thought that this unit would be just fine.
So I need a motion to approve this. And a motion and support. All in favor of this motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Number 2.
Number 2, motion by Rick Warren, supported by Linda Judge, to recommend to committee of the whole to authorize building grounds / parks department to purchase new playground equipment for Krasuski County Park from BYO Recreation with the exclusion of the mulch at a total not to exceed $61,800, and further to authorize National Playground Construction to complete installation at a cost of $30,727 to be paid from capital improvement line item 675-208-977.500. Motion carried unanimously. I believe that's wrong on the second part of this, on the construction.
There you go.
I have another quote. I was waiting for the quote, it wasn't there before the properties meeting, so I wasn't able to bring it, but I did get the other quote. For the mulch in there and installs, $19,146. I just got that this morning.
That includes both.
That includes the mulch, which was $5,000 off of that.
So we're talking 61,800 for the equipment, we're talking 19,146 installation and
Correct, and I do have a note here, he was not provided with documentation on the venture landing. May require a little bit more material for that, I haven't had a chance to call him to see what he's talking about, so I will do that. The install right now is $19,146.
same materials that on both these are mulch.
Yeah,
Mulch.
right.
So not a huge amount.
Correct.
Would be.
So this draft of 30,000.
That's correct.
I'm gonna say not to exceed 20, because he's gonna add a little bit, possibly more.
Okay.
Not exciting.
Perfect.
So I make that motion to move that 61,800 and 20,000 for the labor material, not to exceed 20,000.
So that's your motion?
That's my motion.
Discussion on that motion?
The company name is not National Playground Construction for the install. It's
The install is Playland LLC. They're out of Brown City, Michigan.
Playland LLC.
just so it's very familiar.
Couple questions. Did we get any other quotes for that? Essentially, two quotes,
For the install,
competitive quotes for the install.
that's correct.
For the playground equipment,
We have 3 quotes.
we have 3 quotes, okay. And am I right in saying that the playground equipment that we had is no longer there?
That is no longer there. It was dangerous. We took it down earlier this year. We had a slide, it's 30-year-old wood. We had a slide that was mounted to the 4x4, and we had it propped up with 2x4s. We seen how dangerous it was, so we just tore it down before someone got hurt.
And this.
So right now, we have nothing but a sand pile.
Yeah, I think that's important that we make public aware of that.
And this equipment here, because I said it is vacant now, it's just dirt, sandy area. This equipment fits in that same footprint, so we don't have to add any more, do anything to it. We're just setting that in that same footprint that was already there. Just one other note, the other playground that was there, that was the slide issue, but where it was mounted to the ground, there was actually bolts hanging out, probably at least 3/4 of an inch or better, on 4 spots where somebody could have been running around there for an ankle pretty easily. It was pretty dangerous.
And this playground does, I know it's a little bit expensive, but it does go for all age groups, up to 13 years old. So, we have stuff for smaller kids and stuff for bigger.
What kind of warranty did we get on equipment like this?
I don't know, I'll have to check into that.
Or do we have a lifetime?
I don't know actually what the warranty would be. I mean, if we,
I guess lifetime, I was thinking, what's the general
I think
durability?
25 years, I think, is
Standard.
the general lifespan of this type of equipment.
yes, but that's not the warranty, right?
Which means in this county, that'll keep it for 50 years.
I think that's what the other one was.
If we could plan out a warranty for the next meeting.
That one was about 50 years old, wasn't it?
I know it's been there for 30.
Yeah.
I don't know how much before that.
Okay, we have a motion on this one. That's support. All in favor, say aye.
remind everybody that most players, they got new equipment also, but that was fine. And that we were very fortunate we didn't find one there.
I would just say that, as to that, no other, we got, yeah, absolutely discredit to the young, the Eagle stuff, the debate is a beautiful account. But up by Forest Hall, we do have little playground equipment up there still, so we will be back as more equipment.
For one more playground. So right now, we're trying to get rid of the dangerous one.
The two parks are gonna be pretty much, we've got a real program coming up for two parks to fix them on, so.
But in fact, we have no park equipment at Trzuski at all this week.
That's correct. Right now, there's a sign out there that says playground coming soon.
Had a tractor out there, they had to pull it up, they didn't buck it on the tractor.
That's correct.
There's a lot of
It's
upgrades.
a big lawnmower.
Yep, big lawnmower. So we passed that one up. Number three.
Number three, motion by Rick Warren, support by Clifton Bishop to recommend to review the whole authorized animal control to purchase ballistic frost, beauty belts, and pepper spray with belt keepers at a cost not to exceed $3,500 to be paid from line item 224-602-743-000 AC uniforms pursuant to the forthcoming budget amendment and further that the portion of the request for the purchase of the S&W M&P 40 cal pistol, tranquilizer guns, tasers, and holsters be brought back to future properties committee meeting. Motion carried unanimously. Make the motion to move that. That project, that later on, bigger board discussion.
How do we pay for this? Sport?
So,
Hey, we keep running enough to fill here, I just wonder how we're gonna pay for this.
Yeah,
What kind of a program do you have?
we were able to, Jackie quickly look at, what we're gonna do is take, the budget amendment, the money's coming out of our office equipment line, because we have spent hardly anything, I don't buy a lot of office equipment, so we're taking it out of there, putting it into our uniforms for the budget amendment. For the rest of the year, I'm kind of shot on that, but that's fine, I think I can live with that, but there's enough then in that uniform line to purchase.
I passed out a copy of the budget.
Yep. That's what this is for.
Yeah, I agree. And the things today, the way they are, this is a neat thing, stays out there. What's that?
I said, at this time, I think it's a needed thing also, we're gonna have tasers out there for 40 hours.
I'm not worried about that, I'm not worried about the tasers or the vests, right? There's more to this number three here, because you're talking about coming back. You're talking about coming back and asking for 40 caliber Smith and Wesson pistols.
Well, there's
There's a whole bunch of other, and that's talking about a lot of money.
Honestly, the 40 cals are actually pretty cheap. The tasers are what's expensive.
Well, the 40 calibers aren't that cheap, first of all. Secondly, 40 caliber ammunition is something that's going out of style. So whatever you want to do, that's fine. But this is about, not about who's supposed to have what. It's not about having the guns, it's about how they get paid for it. And I mean, we continue to run up a real bill here now.
Well, I guess I beg to differ because I've looked at Dave's budget. And quite honestly, it's pretty pathetic. When I see the department that has $0 in the budget for training, I think that's ridiculous. We wouldn't expect the sheriff's department, we wouldn't expect the health department, we wouldn't expect any department.
How many dollars does the county put in your budget?
Well, I think it was, 2 years ago, it was like
135.
135.
Just the request that we've got though, for today's meeting has been covered. In effect, we've got,
Yes,
Correct.
And the other part was for people becoming the county.
and that's.
Yeah.
I also have to add one more thing to amend that motion to accept the budget amendment also.
Instead of pursuant to approve the action, or this submitted.
so maybe this is good discussion, but at another point, certainly through properties about how this all gets paid for.
We're gonna have budget hearings pretty soon.
That too, that's a good time to be, really,
And I promise it's gonna be a huge conversation. It's easy,
Real huge.
yeah, but it needs to be talked about.
Right. Or do we need budget hearings, or you guys just wanna prove everything that everybody wants?
we'll see.
Candy store last time.
All three, Gary.
All right, well, we have a motion of support for this. I have one question, another question concerning, we talked about in a previous meeting about going out with the vets. Talking about actually putting a program into the vets offices where they could actually sell the licenses and everything else at the same time. They do the other shots and stuff like that for babies. At no cost to the vets. Have we pursued that, Dave?
We actually just talked to, Mike Bartley, Thursday, we were there Tuesday, we talked with Mike. We are actually looking at a different program for our license sales, because what we have right now is not user friendly at all, the online stuff. We're doing a lot of online sales, but it's not a user friendly system at all. Macomb County actually uses something that's super simple. I mean, you put a couple checks in there and it's very simple. So we talked with Mike and he says it's not an issue, it's something we can do. So we're nailing some of this stuff down with that. And at that point, we're gonna take that program to some of these vets that way, because it would be way easier for them to help us with that system if that's the case. So yes, we are working on that. We've talked to a couple of vets about it, because we're working with a lot of vets in different ways now for things. Some say, well, come back when we get this done and see if it's a little easier. Some want nothing to do with it, they just don't want to deal with that extra. You know, they're swamped and they say, oh, that's just more issues we gotta do. So, you know, there might, even if we get a couple of them to do it, it would be a big help. It's simple, they're getting their rabies, you know, here, it's time to do your license. But, so we are working on it though, and this new program, if everything goes well, there's no cost. Actually, we will save money because we're paying just for that online portion of our program right now is like $2,600 a year, I think it is. So we would eliminate that cost because they can go right through the county website this way. So hoping that all works out good.
Am I right, in dealing with events, there would probably be some amount of money that would be left with them?
Well, we
if they
talked
did
about that as far as, you know,
We had that discussion.
give them, give them $10 per license or something like that, or whatever we decided the board to, as an incentive for them to help with that, it would certainly, I mean, if it was $5, $10, to them, you know, it saves us a lot of time, you know, that we wouldn't have to spend on it, so certainly that might help. I don't know, some vets could care less, but.
That sounds a little high, but
Well, I just threw that out there. I don't know what,
given what we're charging.
yeah, I just threw that out there. That's something we would have to discuss, obviously, it's the
We're
way
gonna have
percentage.
We're supposed to be on a committee to actually come up with ideas of how to.
We are doing, I mean, Gary, we are doing some canvassing. We are, the Friends of Lapeer Animal Control
You know,
is.
Dave, I just don't want you to end up in a real hole
You
later
know,
on, you know that.
I get it, and again, we are doing everything possible that we can to try to bring in more revenue. That, again, that Friends of Lapeer Animal Control is taken right off. They're paying for all our medical stuff. You guys don't have to pay any medical as long as that keeps going. You know, that Friends thing is paying every vet bill that I have. And, you know, so we're doing what we can to help, you know, but.
Dave, do you know in your budget, what did you have budgeted for medical expenses
$2,000
for how long?
a year.
A year?
Yeah.
Okay. Has anybody been to a vet lately?
I can eat that up with one animal,
I'm sure you can.
but it is what it is.
And
You know,
again, I'm not,
that's where I'm at, so.
and that's my point to this is,
I don't have $1 million fund.
I know, we keep looking for them.
departments have to be funded properly. You want them to work now. Okay?
Nobody has a problem with that, Brian, but you gotta come up with the money from someplace. Where do you take the money from? You take it from, like, where it's for the treasurer, or where else? Somebody's gonna have to keep the balance.
I understand.
I don't have a problem giving it to them, just let me
And
find
I guess-
someplace else to take the
I
money.
guess when it comes to budgets, we're gonna have to really sit down and figure out where we want some money to make sure that the departments that are not funded very well at all on this solution to that. Because, I'm sorry, I just don't think it's right for any department to have $0 in a training budget. That's ridiculous.
Okay, I don't disagree. Just coming up with the money, that's all.
That's right. It's just money.
Still gotta come up with the money.
Conversation, because when it comes to budget time, and I've always said this, that big piece of pie, and everybody wants their portion of that pie, and then we have to look them in the eye and say, which one's gonna go without, or which one's gonna get, so we try to make that. We are limited on what we have to work with Gary's trying to say, and so everybody talks about free money, but where is it coming from? And so they get it, and from heaven, so we gotta talk now, the consumers, come on out there, bring some more money to us. That will be a big discussion.
Yeah, and I agree.
Budgets are coming up soon.
Well, the good news is, Dave, is you got quite a bit of hair to share.
Well.
I was just sitting here quietly, shooting the word.
You know, if you let the sides grow, it'd probably be.
I was thinking about stepping down the room.
Well, I guess we have a motion of support for this, is that correct? Yes. So let's vote. All in favor of this motion? Say aye. Both same sign. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Glad for your patience. Moving on. You want to talk about
review process.
Yeah, on us this morning.
Last meeting, I did mention it, and continue that discussion. Amy Talent, of course, as part of her original cost, no additional costs, offered to help us go through in effect, like a 6-month review for our new controller. Though he's been doing so well, it almost feels like he's been here a lot longer. It looks as if that process that she's outlined, and I give you a copy of rough outline of a typical process that she would do with others, would take up to 2 months, 8 weeks, to do it without a lot of pressure. And so I guess first thing I wanted to do was see if schedule-wise, we might look at a couple of dates to see if all our board members could participate. We did talk about wanting to have everybody participate if at all possible, plus so I was going to ask if you know your schedules for the first 2 Thursdays in September, which would be, I think, the 2nd and the 9th.
When do we start the budget?
Tentatively, the online revenue worksheet forms available to departments will be June 28th. And the time that we're proposing right now for our review, we're aiming at, I prefer the 9th, if we can aim at the 9th, because Mako has a conference September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So the 9th. We'll be starting our budget hearings with departments, or scheduling budget hearings with departments the 2nd week of September. So if we could get it done before those meetings occur, would be preferable.
I guess really what's the point of doing this?
I think it's something
Don't disrespect it.
It's all good.
You know, is this kind of business, right?
No, it's something that's in the contract that we're supposed to do it. As far as review.
Typically,
I mean, it's not something that's not uncommon.
No, this is 6 months.
right. For new staff, 6 months is not unusual. Sometimes it's more frequent. And the concept is, in good management, you do it for a new employee more frequently, so you don't have a buildup of a lot of issues that never got raised until you're already ready to do a serious performance review.
And I will say, I welcome it if it's something that we can do. I know that the annual review will occur sometime in January. So if we are going to do this review, I would say sooner than later, because by the time we wrap up 3 months later, we're going to have an annual review, and 90 days later is not going to cause much difference. So,
It'll actually make it easier for the January one.
Right,
yeah.
We're already ahead of it.
quite frankly, too, I think that Amy Sell had built this into the contract when she went out to go. Yeah, it was already built in, so it's a free service. I would just say, make it as wide as you can to catch as much information, so we're not spending the extra time 3 months later.
Right. So, you're doing this in August instead of September?
The way she laid it out, it looks to me, by the time you have a chance to respond to things, it will take up to, we might try it the last weekend of August, the last Thursday in August,
26th.
if that fits people's schedule.
August 26th, good for me.
And I don't think we want to rush, it just, maybe we can push it to that date. Is that, how's last Thursday in August?
As of right now, it's okay.
Okay, well, yeah, we can never, okay, well, we'll, Clint and I, if it needs for the board's approval, we'll be in contact with her to sort of push this process forward and look at that date as one that she's involved in. Is that okay?
Not confirmed yet until later.
But if you would write on your calendars to hold that date, that would be appreciated. So everybody has a chance to protect it. And again, that date, tell me the
August 26th.
26th. The other part that I was going to tie, and I guess we've done unless we have any more discussion, is we do have the tentative calendar for budget in front of us. I don't know if Quentin wants to comment anything additional beyond what he just indicated. But I think it's important that we see that. Again, budget our time for that.
So I wish pack lunch. That's right.
Your pillow, baby.
You had that experience last year.
No, you must have.
Did there? Okay, I was thinking he was coming to meetings already.
Didn't I?
How did that work? Okay, well,
No,
geez.
this will be a fun new experience.
It can be, depending on what we want the departments to do.
It won't be fun.
Or anything for lunch.
Imagine if we did this for every department.
My first one started out, Brian, when the economy took it down back in 07, 08, that,
Everything was fine before
Yeah.
Dave gets elected. Here we went down.
yeah, it wasn't fun.
Anything else you want to add? Calendar-wise, Jackie, or?
I would just say, Jackie, please jump in here. I'd just say that the next big date that's going to come, where the actual action is going to happen, is June 28th. And then by July 12th, the online expense worksheets are available to departments. Those are the two next big dates. Jackie?
I just wanted you folks to have it so you can check to make sure those dates work with your calendars. The IT part of it is all set to go.
This is the routine part compared to everything else you're dealing with, like
Correct,
with art money.
correct.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll just jam a few more things on our calendar.
This is tradition.
We all fine, Sarah. But on August 26th, draft budget review report.
That's before Labor Day. That's before Labor Day. That's, you know, right around Labor Day.
Are you gonna plan a meeting to go over that as presented, like you have before?
Don't have to think about that, but we probably will.
You know, I think that's going to be a full day because we,
Just trying to schedule for our office.
Oh, I understand that. But you need to talk about it.
yeah, because we've also talked about Amy Sell and review, so I think plan on a full day.
Anything else like to put on the calendar? Moving on. Yes, that'll bring us down to second public time. Would anybody like to speak to this board during the second public time? How are you?
I survived.
You survived?
First of all, those who don't know me, I'm Connie Cavalier. I'm on the board of directors for the Valley Area Cincinnati Youth. I represent Lapeer County, and I'm also on the programs board here in Lapeer County. And I was so happy to hear our senior center is going to be open again. And hoping bigger and better things will happen over there. I also want to say that I'm very disappointed in our tree commission. I have lived by the PCJ tree for over 40 years. My son also lives across the street. And my daughter is also renting a place until their home was built on the creek. And they have come through and of course they've stopped at our properties, but they have made it look more like a canoe launch than it has been easily drained. And have taken out some very, very beautiful trees and have exposed our property, even though we're about a mile or so down North Water. You can see us now from Bowers. So just just wanted to say that, I'm not the only one, we're not the only property owners, but, very, very disappointed in our. So it's, good to be back, it's good to see you all without that, and, I hope you all continue on this journey, and thank you for being such good representatives of our county. Thank you. And
Anybody else like to? Any second public time like to talk to the board?
My name is Carol Benz, and first of all, I would just like to support the request by Carol Brown that the vending machines are looked at and, my opinion is that they would be removed and replaced with something else. Secondly, I'd like to thank the sheriff's department. I've heard from more than one person, he got a phone call, that the sheriff's department is working really well with our township, as they are, adopting new resolutions for the medical marijuana, caregiver, special land uses. There's better communication. The sheriff has a clearer view of what these townships, like the conditions they're putting in. So now the sheriffs are like, okay, now we know, what's happening. And I've heard in Deerfield Township, there's been some real, I know they just turned on a special land use, for a caregiver because for whatever reason, things weren't being followed. So, and then the third thing I'd just like to ask, that you take this, report by Senator, McBroom and this oversight committee with a grain of salt. I know people that have volunteered under oath to go before that committee, answer questions under oath, and they were not allowed to do so. So this report was done by this committee without, I believe, not in an open, it was an open committee, but, I think things were done without the more public, again, they were volunteering their time to talk under oath to say what they saw at these different places. So please read the report, with great salt. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to this board during the second public time?
I would just like to request a microphone here so that everybody back here can hear what's going on. And if you all, I think these microphones have been working since I've come the last couple times I've been here.
I am working on that.
Thank you.
This port does not work, so my plan did not work, so I'm going to plan B, but I am working on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.
Would anybody else like to address this board during the second public time? Hearing and seeing no one, I'll close the second public time. There is no closed session today, so that brings us down to commissioner reports.
I guess I was just going to indicate that I have had some contacts on Gypsy Law. People continue to be concerned. Whether there's a good resolution way, especially this year, there's probably, other than individual effort, I don't think there is any. But whether there's interest in spraying will be interesting to see. I know somebody's asked us to make sure we put that in our budget, probably more than once.
A lot of requests for that. Probably, I don't know how the mosquitoes are gonna be this year, but I'm sure with everything that happened last year with equine encephalitis and everything else that goes along with the mosquitoes, we'll have to see where that's at as far as spraying. I know the state has told us that they know when they come through and they spray, there's not gonna be anyone allowed to opt out of the spraying. They're just gonna come through and just spray. So they've already let us know that. Yeah, they've already told us that.
Who in the state has taken that on themselves to say it?
Probably the same people that take everything else upon themselves in the state to give us a hard time. I don't know who has done it yet. And that happened last year when I went through that whole process of trying to help out everybody. do this, do that. Whatever. So, anything else? Yes, there's an issue when you talk about spraying, when in the northern part of the county, Rich Township, North Branch, and Clifford, and a lot of those, there's already spraying for mosquitoes. They spray constantly, two times a year, or whatever. A lot of stuff on the ground, not in the air, but a lot of them are already doing it.
Well, Rich Township at least has a village for it.
I know they do. I think Clifford does too. North Branch Village, they do it. I don't know if they have a village board or they do. But they do it twice a year, so. I see them in the back row, they're shaking their heads. Anything else, Val? Linda?
No, I don't have anything, just, glad that senior centers are opening and we've got a date for it. I think we need to look at some more programs that'll benefit our seniors. But that's all I have. That's it.
Right, I do have a couple of, we had talked to you earlier about Dr. Robert, Misconi, from, Moderna. I mean, he was one, not Moderna, but he was one of the inventors of the MMRA, and we're being sensitive. I have a tough time, and I think everybody should be sensitive, that we're being sensitive. I'm hearing all kinds of stuff happening. I just learned the other night, what's been going on in their school system. We've been hearing about critical race theory. It's still a huge issue. And then I'm listening to teachers with tenure and telling us that, oh, this has been going on for 10 years. And I said, you're just now bringing it to the parents, and the parents are just now learning about this. It's kind of crazy. This is affecting our future kids, their freedom. All these things that come under that, you've probably heard some of these titles. Whoa, social justice, racial justice, systematic sin, America's original sins, intersectionality, equal equity. Equity is a huge word they're using for everything today. Of changing what we're doing in this country. Equal outcomes, and they're talking about anti-racism. They're just making things worse and pitting people against each other one-on-one. And we talked about, I had a discussion about electric cars. And we have the cities might be able to get better off than somebody else in the suburbs, but the cities and suburbs will start fighting with each other. This is where the country's heading to, until people start standing up. So I want to get back to, I applaud you, young ladies, for joining us here today. And I applaud anybody who attends any township meeting or school board meetings. America has to get involved. And you have to do it not because of your selfish needs, but do it for your children, for your grandchildren, because they're the ones going to be affected by all this stuff that's going on right now. It has been going on. I don't have any kids. I probably would have been upset about this a long time ago. But it's come to my life. And then I'm just now hearing from professionals that this has been going on. I'd be questioning every teacher that taught my kid. Every person who's got authority over my kid. I'm the authority over my family. I have a son, but he has cerebral palsy, so I'll never have grandchildren. So I didn't have all those issues. And you didn't have those issues. We grew up with freedom. But those that are younger than us are going to be missing out on a whole bunch. It's a shame. And so we just handed today the Michigan Senate Oversight Committee. Carol Brown said it great. Don't take this to heart. I went right to Antrim County, because I've been in Antrim County. I have friends that were downtown Detroit, being called liars right now, being shunned, being censored. Friends, my friends. So it's hitting my backyard. It should be hitting your backyard. Antrim County. Trump won Antrim County by 470 votes over 143. You know, during that night, Trump lost in Antrim County. They caught it, and we're blessed that Antrim County was the first in the country to catch it, because it was such a small community that the people knew each other and stood up. And that's why I got correct. Right now, we have state reps and senators who don't believe there's any evidence out there. There's proof, evidence out there. And I said the last time that we're going to hold these young ladies, the clerks, all the canvassers responsible, and they have to meet a high degree of their quality when they're inspecting stuff, or they can go to jail. But we're not asking for that same degree of inspection on an internal machine of electronics, which we know nothing about inside. It's appalling, very appalling. So when I got handed this today, it made my blood pressure go even higher. Because this is a lie. And where you want to sit back and enjoy it and accept it, that's your business. But this is your grandkids right here. And your country is changing right before your eyes unless you stand up. So I'm sorry, but this is not what I took the oath for, to stand up. Freedom and tyranny in this country. I'm supposed to be defending it both foreign and domestic. That means our government does not have the right to tell me or anybody else how to make my decision. There you went fought for that too. We put our lives in line for what reason? For this? No. For this? Bullshit. I'm sorry, but that is where it's at. We need people to start standing up, and they better stand up fast because it's going. It needs to change the machine before 2022, but we need to correct 2020 before we can go any further. And I apologize for that, but that's exactly how I feel today. I'm done. Anything else?
Watch your blood pressure.
I am. It's the leaders in this country that I thought were leaders, and don't even have the what to stand up today. That pissed me off. I understand.
I think when we're talking about those voting machines, I'm not so sure that we have control over those voting machines in the county. That's another issue. That's a state issue, that's a clerk's issue.
But we have a voice, and every leader in this country, and every leader in this township, every leader, I don't care where you are, if you're a leader, you can have that voice. They're censoring us. Who's going to speak for the people if we don't speak? Because I can't change the machine, you're right. But I can have a voice to let them know that this county is going to stand for it, and that county is going to stand for it, and I promise you those machines will be changed tomorrow. The laws are based on we the people, not based on who's the judges up there that says this is what I'm going to tell you to do. Because the judges are turning words around today and going against the laws that are already written from the Constitution. They're doing that today and we're allowing it. So everybody has to speak up at every level. Everyone. Sorry, I apologize.
You don't have to apologize.
Well, no, but when I hear people tell me, yeah, but there's nothing I can do, it's the way we've been doing things for years. That's what I hear from a lot of politicians. Well, then get your ass out of the seat because it doesn't need to be that way. You got to change it to take care of we the people, not the politicians. That's how I feel about all politicians. I never thought that I would even see this in my lifetime, nor you. And here I am with my blood pressure going crazy because of it. So I am looking to try to calm that down. And I'm going to take my needs for myself. And I'm not going to have grandkids. But man, if you do, and you're not taking it to heart, I don't know what to tell you, but you should be voicing, everybody should get that voting right now. All over the country. I watched them arrest people for speaking up in front of a school board. I know you all saw it on TV. They arrested them for speaking. And we got people that are being released for burning down our county buildings and our police stations. And we got people sitting in prison right now in Washington, D.C. without any representation because our government doesn't want to hear the truth. They won't even show the film. We had a 14-year veteran, a mother of 3, unarmed, shot for no reason. Because you thought it was wrong for her to be in that Capitol building that we paid for our money. She was peacefully protesting and was led in by the Capitol Police. And the FBI is involved in this. But nobody wants to investigate that. What the hell kind of country am I living in? And when did it change? So, and I shut me down. I'm done.
Right?
So, last week I went to a Friends of the Pomona Trail meeting. They were very welcoming. It was quite a long meeting. Me and John Bussell and later today, Clinton is going to meet up with us, and we're going to go really look at this trail. There's, I think, about
3 spots. We have some pretty big problems. One, sounds like about half the trails wash out. It's about a 15-foot drop. I did contact the DNR. We have a meeting next week with her. So, to see if there's some funding to fix some of these issues. Apparently, these big culverts going through the trail. Apparently, we're the area commissioner or not this problem. How that would be, I guess I will have more information probably next week for that. We'll meet with the DNR officer who's in charge of the trail system for Southeast Michigan. Next Thursday at 2.
And we're kind of caught in the middle there, because that's a state property, that belongs to the state, doesn't belong to the county, so it's not part of the park.
The county is paid to maintain, in, like all good state things, it's underfunded.
Through a grant.
We're getting an annual amount, was it 10 or 12,000?
7,500.
7,500 now.
From the information that I was given, sounds like it started out at about 15,000.
That's about right.
It's steadily going down over the years. So, looks like I should have a lot more information in the next week or 2 on this. That's it.
That's it. I know that's kind of a complicated thing, the way that trail, because the state owns it. And then, of course, everybody expects the county to pay for
Let
it.
me show my sincere appreciation for you putting me on that queue. Thank you so much, Gary.
I thought you'd enjoy it.
I used to know the Gordy Trail. It
Oh,
was
well.
when I first started. It was bad.
Nice people.
Oh, very nice people. I guess I have one other comment,
But you go ahead.
just because you were here last week.
What do we do?
So we went to that, me and Quentin went to that meeting that Friday at the Lapeer Center building. Yeah,
Michigan Works.
Michigan Works. Very interesting. Very nice breakfast.
They do it right, though.
Kind of funny how, these 2 commissioners, they're on this committee that gets this beautiful breakfast provided. It's and gravy, it was bacon and sausage and scrambled egg.
I was on the women, I was on short straw list, I got the short straw on that one.
Homemade cinnamon rolls. It was Kansas. It was great.
I understand that.
Are you saying jealous that I hear
But
jealous?
they haven't done that, they haven't done that for 15 months, and
I said, none of the committees I'm on have anything like this.
Nor do I have that many public, any private meetings that I go to, but.
I know.
But notice what your state money can do when you get a group of counties together.
Well, hats off to the lady at the Lapeer Center building, because that was about the best biscuits and gravy I've had in a long time.
They went on some good meals, I've been there many, many times. But they do represent pretty good deals.
They just agreed to start doing that again for us because they weren't able to do that. Center really wasn't for months because of the.
Yeah, it was about 10 pounds.
Yeah. They haven't had a good breakfast for months. Anything else? Everything that was brought up today, I'm sure we'll look into it for you, see if we can do anything about it. And I'm not sure on those machines how that's gonna work, but we'll take a look at that. So I thought some of those machines paid for by the townships. Yeah, they all buy their own voting machines, it's not a matter of the county.
Sometimes the state is.
The state pays for them, state ships them out. So it's not like we're buying all those voting machines.
But here's the issue with everything in politics right now, including here, everywhere else. There's 6 of us up there, 7 of us, but we have a committee, so the committee decides what's going out there. And so the county clerk said, we're not gonna, but the voices that are out there, it's gonna be important, that they can get these committees to start getting away from those things, to force them to do their job. If we all voice our opinion at all levels, and yes, we probably won't have that control, but we should have a strong voice to tell them to change it. Because it's the committees that are keeping it from us.
Well, I understand, and I think that there was the last time when they picked those machines, they actually had an opportunity to pay 3 or 4 different companies that they were picking machines from. And I'm not sure that that wasn't something national. When they come up with those particular machines for everybody, for all the states and everything else.
It's not only national, this is a global thing, and the thing that you talk about, the machine, it's not just Dominion. Dominion is a word you hear the most. But you all heard Xerox, right? You know what Xerox is? It's a copy machine. But there's a lot of copy machines. They're not all Xerox, but we call it a Xerox because it's a copy machine. Dominion is a machine. And there's other machines, the Smartmatic and the rest of them, are also part of that equation. It's not just one. It's all the machines. So we have to look at that internally for our own protection.
Right. It's a problem. But is this final audit from the state? I haven't.
They're saying there is no fraud, they found no fraud involved in nothing. And they are calling our citizens liars. That's why I'm so hot right now. This is the numbers. This is your number they gave it. Because they don't want to look into it. Where's Gary Howell? Where's Kevin Daly? Where are these people? I don't care if you're not in a committee. You better be speaking up in there and tell those committees this is wrong. Because it wasn't what happened. And I know that for a fact. That's why I'm so upset. My friends, and I would have been downtown Detroit on election day, the next day, had I not had COVID. But my friends were. And they're not listening to them. And you're censoring a doctor. You're censoring our frontline doctors. We're being censored. But everything we're doing today, everything, the media is not on our side. They're not. I can tell you right now, Crystal can put something through, and it's not going to get out of the paper until they approve it. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about them. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, it's got to go through these people, and those people at that high level are controlling you and me right now. That's why my blood pressure is high, because that is their concern. Yeah, that's a problem. I
don't disagree. I tell you one thing, what's falling, Google and Facebook, and all of those people that censor people, they're private companies.
Amen.
And that's not the government. Those are private companies doing that.
And the
They're
government
making the determinations.
And the government's backing. And they were so glad that Biden got in because Trump was stopping that. And our politicians were starting to stop it. And they didn't like it. And look what they did to us. Look what they did to us overnight when they were so close to having to be answering to their own agendas. It was right in front of our eyes. This is not something that's hidden. But they want you to start thinking, didn't see that.
I'm going to tell you something, Rick.
You don't see me, do you? You see me? Okay, that's the way the world is.
I'm too old to go back in the Marine.
And I don't want you to, because we gotta get these young ass people to get out their butt and go in there and fight for it, but they gotta know what they're fighting for, and they don't know.
I'm too old to do that again.
You know what we have in this
I'm
country?
going to tell you something. My family, my father was a Marine, I was a Marine, my son was a Marine, but I'm going to tell you something about my grandson. I'm watching what's happening to the military right now, and I'll tell you what, this family's sick and tired of defending this country.
Thank you.
I'm
100%.
sick and tired of it.
You heard the sheriff today. Why are we up? Why are we riled up? Why is he riled up? We fought to help you give the freedom And we're teaching kids, they're talking about putting out brochures and keep an eye on this because you're gonna be seeing it in this local community. Instead of saying his and hers anymore, it's gonna be theirs. How do you teach a child whether you're a boy or girl if you can't even tell them what they are? What the hell? I mean, the Bible tells you what it's all about. We don't have to change that. But that's where we're at. We're allowing the media and everybody else to not speak out because she can say what she wants, but she's never gonna paper if she believes it. If it doesn't go with their agenda. Now, I'm not saying they're doing it. I'm telling you a fact. Well, these reporters can only say what they're being taught because their boss tells them that. My wife having issues with her company, a large, huge company, because these corporations are so liberal today that they're controlling the people that work for them, and they got you in fear because you don't want to lose your job. You don't get a vaccine, you lose your job. What the hell is that about?
That's gonna get worse.
It's gonna, as long as we stand up, we can stop it, but if we don't, and some people say, well, we're gonna work until next 22 won't be like that. If we don't stop it today, 22 will be exactly like that, because that's the way it keeps going for years and years and years. We better start voicing our opinions, everybody. I just can't believe I'm not hearing anybody yelling out right now. And this, some areas they are.
If
And they
you
get
don't
arrested
look, you
because
won't
they're
see
speaking
it.
up.
If you don't look, you won't see it.
You don't see it. Look at it, dig in, check it out. I've been following it all along. This is not new. They're all this COVID stuff, hydroxychloroquine, that was approved okay back then. It was approved 60 years ago, wasn't gonna hit nobody, but we put fear in everybody not to take it. My doctor was ordered not to give out hydroxychloroquine. You believe that? My doctor was ordered to do that. Finally, she went against him, and I'm glad she did because I had COVID, and I had more problems with flus and colds than I did with my COVID because I had the right treatment. And infectious gear or whatever it is. Another one they're not talking about. Frontline doctors are proving all this. But we're being censored and we're being controlled, and that's why we need to talk today and not tomorrow. Kids being vaccinated don't even have, it's not even FDA approved, and they don't even know the results. And the WHO right now is saying you shouldn't vaccinate your kids, but yet our government is saying you need to vaccinate your kids. Who the hell is our government?
Well, I don't know. I didn't elect.
I didn't elect them either. And this last one didn't get elected either. They got stolen. And that's why we need to stand up and fight for our rights. That's what got happened. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Motion adjourned, so I can get my blood pressure in check. Thank you.
So we need, I think we're gonna beat out.
Thanks for showing up. Thursday, right, we got.
There you go.
I got.